Zhang, pushing upward. Yep, we got a 6 at the first and a 6 at the fifth. Pushing upward. The receptive earth, the gentle wind, wood. Pushing upward has supreme success. One must see the great man. Fear not. Departure toward the south brings good fortune. The pushing upward of the good elements encounters no obstruction and therefore accompanied by great success. The pushing upward is made possible not by violence but by modesty and adaptability. Since the individual is borne along by the propitiousness of the time, he advances. He must go to see authoritative people. He must not be afraid to do this because success is assured. But he must set to work, for activity brings good fortune. The image. Within the earth, wood grows. The image of pushing upward. Thus, the superior man of devoted character heaps up small things in order to achieve something high and great. Adapting itself to obstacles and bending around them, wood in the earth grows upward without haste and without rest. Thus, too, the superior man is devoted in character and never pauses in his progress. In progress, the emphasis is on expansion. Pushing upward indicates rather a vertical ascent, direct rise from obscurity and lowliness to power and influence. The lines, springing upward that meets with confidence, brings great good fortune. This is the situation at the beginning of ascent. Just as wood draws strength for its upward push from the root, which in itself is in the lowest place, so the power to rise comes from this low and obscure station. But there is a spiritual affinity with the rulers above, and this solidarity creates the confidence needed to accomplish something. If one is sincere, it furthers one to bring even a small offering. No blame. Here, a strong man is presupposed. It is true that he does not fit in with his environment, inasmuch as he is too brusque and pays too little attention to form. But as he is upright in character, he meets with response, and his lack of outward form does no harm. Here, uprightness is the outcome of sound qualities of character, whereas in the corresponding line of the preceding hexagram, it is the result of innate humility. One pushes upward into an empty city. All obstructions that generally block progress fall away here. Things proceed with remarkable ease. Unhesitatingly, one follows this road in order to profit by one's success. Seen from without, everything seems to be in the best of order. However, no promise of good fortune is added. It is a question how long such unobstructed success can last. But it is wise not to yield to such misgivings, because they only prohibit or inhibit one's power. Instead, the point is to profit by the propitiousness of the time. The king offers him Mount Qi, good fortune, no blame. Mount Qi is in western China, the homeland of King Wen. His son, the Duke of Chao, added the words to the individual lines. The pronouncement takes us back to a time when the Chao dynasty was coming into power. At that time, King Wen introduced his illustrious helpers to the god of his native mountain, and they received their places in the halls of the ancestors by the side of the ruler. This indicates a stage in which pushing upward attains its goal. One acquires fame in the sight of gods and men, is received into the circle of those who foster the spiritual life of the nation, and thereby attains a significance that endures beyond time. Perseverance brings good fortune. One pushes upward by steps. When a man is advancing farther and farther, it is important for him not to become intoxicated by success. Precisely when he experiences great success, it is necessary to remain sober and not to try to skip any stages. He must go on, slowly, step by step, as though hesitant. Only such calm, steady progress, overleaping nothing, leads to the goal. Pushing upward in darkness, it furthers one to be unremittingly persevering. He who pushes upward blindly deludes himself. He knows only advance, not retreat. But this means exhaustion. In such a case, it is important to be constantly mindful that one must be conscientious and consistent and must remain so. Only thus does one become free of blind impulse, which is always harmful. Right. Pushing upward. The sequence. Massing toward the top is called pushing upward. Hence there follows the hexagram of pushing upward. Miscellaneous notes. That which pushes upward does not come back. On the face of it, this hexagram is very favorably organized. The movement of the upper trigram, kun, is downward. The lower trigram, sun, penetration wood, strives unhindered toward the top. However, the pushing upward is neither as easy nor as extensive as the rising of the sun. The upward movement is furthermore reinforced by the nuclear trigrams, both of which tend upward. This hexagram is the inverse of the preceding one. The judgment. Pushing upward has supreme success. One must see the great man. Fear not. Departure toward the south brings good fortune. Commentary on the decision. The yielding pushes upward with the time, gentle and devoted. The firm is in the middle and finds correspondence, hence it attains great success. One must see the great man. Fear not, for it brings blessing. Departure toward the south brings good fortune. What is willed is done. The yielding element that, borne by the time, pushes upward is the yielding line at the beginning. It stands for the root of wood. The lower trigram is gentle, the upper devoted. These are preconditions of the time that make it possible for the strong line in the second place, which finds correspondence in the weak line in the place of the ruler, to achieve great success. It is said one must see the great man, and not it furthers one to see the great man, as is usually the case, for the ruler of the hexagram is not the great man. It is, on the contrary, a yielding line. The reason for success is not an earthly one, but a transcendent one. Therefore it is said, fear not, it brings blessing. The favorableness of the conditions comes from the invisible world. No. He already dug me. The favorableness of the conditions comes from the invisible world. We must make the most of them, however, through work. Departure towards the south means work. The south is the region of the heavens between kun and sun, and the two components of the hexagram. The image. Within the earth wood grows, the image of pushing upward. Thus the superior man of devoted character heaps up small things in order to achieve something high and great. The heaping up of small things, steady, imperceptible progress, is suggested by the gradual and invisible growth of wood in the earth. Devoted character corresponds with the trigram kun, something high and great, corresponds with the sun, whose image is a tree. Pushing upward that meets with confidence brings great good fortune. Pushing upward that meets with confidence brings great good fortune. Those above agree in purpose. The yielding line at the beginning agrees in nature with the yielding lines. Therefore it meets with confidence, has success in its pushing upward, just as the hidden root connects the tree with the earth, and through this connection makes growth possible. If one is sincere, it furthers one to bring even a small offering. The sincerity of the 9 in the second place brings joy. The oracle is the same as the preceding hexagram. In the latter, a weak line is intimately connected with the king in the fifth place. Here, a strong line has an equally intimate relation with the weak line in the fifth place. In each case, the spiritual affinity is so close that gifts may be small in extrinsic value without disturbing mutual confidence. One pushes upward into an empty city. There is no reason to hesitate. Furthermore, below it are the divided lines of the hexagram, kun, though empty and open, so that they offer no obstruction to progress. This easy progress might cause hesitation, but as it accords with the time, the main thing is to press forward and take advantage of the time. The king offers him Mount Chi, good fortune, no blame. This is the way of the devoted. This weak line in a weak place stands at the top of Tui, which means the west. The king is like-minded and therefore makes it possible for him to work effectively. Perseverance brings good fortune. One pushes upward by steps. One achieves one's will completely. From the first line to this, the pushing upward proceeds step by step. This line meets with confidence. Even though the second, with small sacrifices only, the third pushes up into a deserted city, and the fourth finally gains admittance even to the realms beyond. These are steps of a progress all summed up in the ruler of the hexagram. Such brilliant success is achieved, and it is at this point of the greatest importance to remain persevering. And at the top, pushing upward in darkness, it furthers one to be unremittingly persevering. At the top is decrease and not wealth. The top line cannot advance any further. Culmination of the shadowy indicates darkness. When one can no longer distinguish things, one must hold fast that perseverance which lies below circumstances in order to not lose one's way. Pushing upward.